Alrighty. Oh, your turn. I did the last one.
Is it 10?
We're at 10.
Okay, awesome. So, welcome back to the Giessen Brothers Podcast. This is episode 10.
We made it.
I don't know if we've made it.
We made it to 10. That's
in the quotations.
we made it to 10 in 30 days.
We tried to pull the stats on the...
I'll look it up while you're talking about it.
Okay. I'm about to say, we saw at the very beginning, or he did. He looked up the stats, or what, did you look it up, or did you just see it randomly?
I heard it and then I looked it up.
Okay. So, basically, what's the success rate of individuals getting to podcast 10?
Yep.
So,
let me find this real quick.
well, as that loads.
Yeah.
I know today we're going to more or less dive into personal development, and we're going to leave it more broad there, and we're both going to go into what we do and how we really view personal development, because I think it changes per person. But you got the stats?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, 90% of new podcasts don't publish more than 3 episodes.
Okay, so we passed that.
And of those 10% that make it past 3, 90% of that leftover 10% don't make it past, or don't make it to episode 10.
So what does that put it at?
You're math, not me. I know enough math to build a house. I don't know.
So it's 80 off the top and then 90?
It's 90, don't make it to 3.
Oh,
And then,
whoa. Okay.
And then only 10% of that, so it would be 1%.
Yeah, 1.
1% of people, of new podcasts, make it to episode 10. And then...
Any other stats, or is that it?
Something about 20 episodes, but it doesn't give a number. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, no.
We made it to
1%.
We're in the 1%. We can finally say that. Oh, all right. Anyway.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. So thank you guys for listening to these horrible first 10 episodes. They've been getting better in my opinion, but I think they're only going to get better. So.
Yeah, I agree.
So we'll kind of, what do you want to talk about? It was personal development. Like we've talked, I mean, every topic that we've hit so far has sort of related to personal development. But we wanted to spend this episode specifically just talking about what it means to each one of us, and then, you know, how we started looking at it differently and what made us look at it differently. So, like, what do you define personal development as?
So, I look at it as the willingness to want to enact change. And I think that's as basic as I can make it without trying to complicate. And that's just, and I say the willingness, and that's the huge portion there, because you can put a plan in place to do personal development. But if you're not willing to make the changes, it will never work.
That's a big one. Very, very much so. Because, I mean, we've talked about that multiple times too, where you're setting goals. Just because you write them down doesn't mean you're actually going to take action on them. You know, overwhelming yourself with too many changes at once can be detrimental. And then having the reason why you want to change, and being passionate about what you're doing, and blah, blah, blah. All that plays into having the willingness or having the drive to take action, right? And for me, personal development, I mean, it's as simple as, you know, just improving your personal habits is what improving your personal habits. In the minimal, you know, in everything that you do. It doesn't matter how big or small that habit is. If you're a smoker, you know, if you take the steps to smoke 1 less cigarette a day, you know what I mean? Small things add up. But it's personal development to me is continuously improving your personal habits to help yourself, you know, grow and do better.
But I'm glad you said, and I'm not trying to, like, you know, hit on it too much here, but you said the little and big, like it's the entirety.
Yeah,
and
it's everything.
That is what I just want to hit on real quick is when you go and do personal development, you're not just looking at one area because it's all connected. You usually can't improve one area without improving another. They're pretty well connected. So, and just for an example, like in my industry, there's no way you're going to be a six-figure producer if you have the personal development of someone who's only ever made 30 grand. You will have to go through personal triumphs along with business triumphs to be able to get to where you want. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and there's kind of like a domino effect, as I guess what the best way to describe it. Because when you start, when you start just making small changes in your daily habits, anything. Again, you're waking up 1 minute earlier every day. Just little things like that. When you start making those, you'll see everything else starts to fall into place, and changes are made in every aspect. Your marriage, your business, your job. Your friends, your relationship with your friends. Everything folds in together as soon as you start making those changes in your personal habits. And it doesn't have, again, it's not big, it's not small, it's everything together. It could be like, say you set a goal and you wanna do an Ironman challenge or a triathlon or something. That's a big one, right?
It's not little.
Yeah, say you want to show, you want to be more affectionate towards your wife. So you make the small change of just saying, I love you once a day. You know what I mean? Things like that. Everything rolls together and everything starts getting better as soon as you start working on those little things. And it takes time, and it's always changing, and you're never 100% be done. Like
No, you will always be.
Yeah, and when did you start looking at that? Like, when did you start looking at personal development as a option? You know what I mean?
So it's funny. I try to look at I look at life as a ginormous game. It's, if I do X, how can I progress faster than the people around me? And then it just, I choose to look at it that way, just simply so I can not be bogged down by the uncontrollables, if that makes sense. And I think a lot of people, and I think I'm getting off, but off topic here, but I think a lot of people, they try to control the uncontrollables, and they don't realize that if you control the one thing you can't control, which is personal growth, a lot of things are going to change because you're only focused on the one thing that matters, which is changing you.
Right.
So when did I notice it? Obviously, the Marine Corps brought out being a leader, being personal development, but I think outside of the military, I think year 2 in business, I realized when I was just going around in a circle for an entire year to where I'd put money in, I'd break even, or I'd go back $200, and then I have to take out a credit card to pay for this. I was like, something has to change. It's not my work ethic, because I'm working 12 hours a day. It's not that. Like, I'm doing what I need to do. It's got to be something else. I was like, the only other factor in this play is me. It is me. So that's where I started just taking extreme ownership of everything around me. And a good example of this is last night I had one of my agents call me, and I couldn't help her on a sale. So I pushed her to another leader. And that other leader, who is not used to being in that type of position, having to look down the barrel of a big commission and having to just give it up to that agent to teach the agent how to do it. They wanted to go against the grain and go against what we created. But the thing is, the agent called me and complained about that, going, the guy's terrible, like this is not a thing that we can do. And I'm like, well, let me take a step back. as a leader, I never made the line and never drawn it and said, hey, this is how you have to handle them. If I send someone to you, this is the procedures.
Yep.
So I go, hey, I apologize. This is 100% my fault. I sent you to someone I did not prep. That's on me.
Yep.
Anything that happens, any commission, that's on me. I will take care of all of it. So if you just let me know what the settling is, and I will make sure that all the funds are where it needs to be. But before, I would have never took ownership for that. I would have started pointing and blaming.
Yeah.
And I couldn't remove myself from it and go, wait a minute. I didn't control what I could control there.
Yeah.
And I just prematurely sent them because I didn't have the time.
Yeah.
Instead of just saying, hey, look, we might have to lose a client because of that, instead of having to go through this whole ordeal where now an agent doesn't feel comfortable with leadership.
Right. Yeah.
If that makes sense. So I know that was long-winded, but I thought that was a pretty good example to throw in there.
Well, yeah, especially, I mean, we talked about taking ownership last time. So, it all comes full circle, obviously. But, to talk about when you mentioned when you do something, you treat it as though life's a game, right? And you try to see if you can do it faster than somebody else or whatever the verbiage
so
was.
It's just like when you're playing San Andreas, when you can open up the stats GTA 5, and then GTA, and I say San Andreas because that's what you and I used to play in high school. When you open up the stats and you can see the different accolades.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, if I get speed up, I can run faster.
Right, yeah.
And it's the same thing. It's if you build a certain muscle and you build a habit that you don't have, it's just unlocking and figuring out through mentors, through studying, through personal development, figuring out what habits you want to create to build those accolades up to hit what you want.
Yeah. So that's, for me, like I asked you when you started like realizing that personal development was an important thing, because obviously you're not thinking about it in high school. You're not thinking about it. I wasn't thinking about it in college.
We didn't have the mentors in place. Don't get me wrong. We had some good people there that we could look towards and go, hey, look, I see why being a business owner is worth being a business owner.
Yep.
But we didn't have anyone holding us accountable.
No.
To things.
No, and it wasn't. Very few people are raised and told to go into business for yourself.
Yes.
Everybody's taught, same with us, get a job, which is fine, right? Again, it's totally great. If you're good at your job, if you like your job, I had a couple jobs like that I loved, but like nobody tells us to, get done with high school, go start a business. Yeah. It's not a normal, or not normal, what's the word I'm looking for? Not common, right? So I didn't care about personal development in high school. I cared about hanging out with my friends. College, same thing. I didn't even care about going to class. I just wanted to hang out with my friends. Even in the Marine Corps, like that was all I cared about. And in the Marine Corps, they don't push personal development. They just...
No, and
it's all required stuff, right? Like you got to run this fast, you got to do this, so you should do it on your own time. So that
there was standards,
exactly.
But there was no, hey, we need you to push past because it's going to better you. It's the only time you had that is if you asked for it.
Well, yeah,
because it was there,
and it wasn't like an option. Like it was all required. Like everything that so you didn't think, okay,
I get what you're saying.
I'm going to go on my own and be a better person.
Hey, to get promoted to E4, you have to go through E3 seminar.
Yeah.
You had to do it. It wasn't
specific requirements, right? So it wasn't, I didn't think about it much then either. Like, I need to work on my personal habits.
That's why I said after. It took me about a year, year 2 in business to really go, wow.
Yeah, so how do we get... how do you get individuals to start thinking about that earlier, right? Because I don't know that I would have listened when I was younger because...
Well, this is the easiest way that I tell everyone that I speak to. If you want, and I'm going to relate it to money because it's always usually money related in the end. If you want to make 100,000 and you're making 30,000, there's a reason why you're making 30,000. There's no fathomable way that you as making 30,000 are at the skill level personally or in your job to make $100,000. So there has to be development both skill-wise and personal-wise. And they have to both be matched, and you can't do one without the other. You can't be a very, very skilled laborer, because you've seen in the construction field, you can be the most skilled person, but if you don't have the personality and you're just a total individual no one wants to work with, you're just creating animosity the entire workday, you're not going to keep a job. Which means you're never going to get the income you want.
Yeah.
Which means, what is that person going to have to shift? If they are actually a $45 hour worker because of their skill, but they only get paid $20 an hour because of their skill, like that personality.
Yep.
People need to understand that goes hand in hand.
Right.
And the easiest way to correlate that is with money.
Yep.
At least how I've seen. So that's the best way I can say is to streamline it. You have to be matched on both sides. You can't expect to make a lot of money without not knowing personal development, and that also works with finance. You can't expect to have $100,000 and keep $100,000 if you don't do any research on how money works. I'll leave it at that. I don't want to go too much on a hole on that.
Yeah. That's just, that's the thing is obviously a lot of us will look back and say, man, if I would have gotten started earlier, if I would have.
Yeah.
And you can't have any regrets, which I don't, but it would have been nice to have a little bit of that guidance in place earlier, so that I would be a little further along now.
But the real question is, well, not a real question. This is the real statement, and really the hack to it all. Just go get a mentor.
Right, and that's big because
that's the cheat to everything. Is instead of having to learn it like him and I had to, and I'm not saying you do this, we will answer questions for you guys, but if you pay for the information, it's going to streamline. Go look at one entrepreneur, Alex Ramosi. Watch his stuff, and you will understand the fact that he paid for his skill set to streamline where he's at now. And it's simply, you can pay for the information you don't have, or you can painfully learn the information you don't have. One of the two.
Either way, you're spending money.
Exactly. So you're going to go spend money and learn your own
faster.
lessons, or you're just going to go to the source, learn from them, and get it immediately and implement it to where it's going to be so much smoother.
Yeah, and I will say, I've still never paid for a mentor.
Me neither.
Yeah.
I have not.
Yeah, but
paid.
That's why we're talking about this, is because it's lessons learned, right? Like if I would have thought about it when I was first starting my company, if I would have just hired somebody to help me, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Paid for the mentorship, I would have had a successmuch sooner.
But the thing is, too, I wouldn't have went straight into business the way I would have. Because I had, like, when I first started the insurance thing, I had a little bit of money to where I could have hired a mentor.
Yeah.
I just didn't even think
That's
that
what
was
I'm
an
saying.
option.
Same. So, like, if I would have just taken the money and put it towards that to help me get moving, it would have been a lot less headache for me.
But see, that's the nice thing is, anyone watching is, you can understand and you can hear from two individuals who have been through their 2, 3, 4 year grinds to where you don't see the tunnel, you don't see the light until that point. You don't have to do that.
Yeah, you don't, but
you're still going to have some tribulations. It's not going to be easy.
Also, you don't have to hire a mentor, and you can just, it's fine. Like,
yeah.
We're not trying to sell you on buying a mentor. That's not what this
that's
is
why
about.
I said we'd
Like,
answer stuff for free. I'm not trying to.
Yeah. It is something that, as like I was just saying, if I were to, go back to my younger self, that's probably one of the things that I would, change is find somebody that's doing it and get them to help you. You know what I mean? Pay them to help you.
Yeah, and my biggest thing is if it's honestly something you want to go into business for, something you're really passionate about, and you haven't tested the waters yet, go work for someone for 6 months.
We've talked about that too.
Yeah, and I want to reiterate that.
We're going backwards. All right. So anyway, back to personal development, right? So I wish that there was, when I was younger, that somebody would have said, "Hey, if you work on your personal habits, things will get better and easier, and you'll be more successful." Right? I don't have any regrets again, but it would have been nice. So, like, how do you do that now? How do you get an individual that's 18, just getting out of high school, and, you know, get them to not understand, because if I were 18 today, there's a lot of things that I would do differently, but at the same time,
would you listen?
I would still go out and party. Like, that was what I wanted to do, and I think everybody should do that. You know what I mean? You're young. Have fun.
I'm on the opposite side. I never really did that.
No, you didn't. No.
I never did that. And I don't, and the thing is, I'm not saying...
You did, just not as much.
Well, I assume, yes, did we party a little? Yes, but not in the fact of my life and the enjoyment never evolved around that. Like, it wasn't like I was waiting for a Friday.
Right, no, that was me. Yeah, all I wanted to do was go hang out.
It was more of, oh, okay, that's where people are hanging out.
Yeah.
Type of ordeal. So that part's a little bit different just for me. But it's always, man, I mean, 18-year-old, how, I guess the real question, and I'll loop to this, is at 18, talking to, I guess, the younger one, or even the individual that goes, I want to change, but I think I'm pretty good the way I am. What do you say to those individuals? Because I think at 18, I thought I was pretty well-rounded.
Yeah, right. We're not even close.
Yeah. So, like, how would you have had that conversation, or what would you have said to actually have pivoted the needle?
That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't know the answer. I wish I did. I wish I had. You know, I just know, like, it's something that I would like to work on and help individuals with. But that's the whole thing is you can't tell somebody, hey, you know, if you do these things, you'll be better, if they don't already want to be better. So how do you get them to want to be better, or how do you help them see that? You know what I mean? Because obviously I was good at 18. I didn't need to be better. Nobody needs to make these changes, right? Some people do, but you don't need to do these things. It's just, you know, how do you get someone to see that if they make the changes, they could have a better situation?
Well, I think
ours was a little bit different because we grew up different than most people did. So, you know, but even then, again, at that age, I wasn't thinking that way. I wasn't thinking personal development is something necessary. And I didn't think that until I was 24, 25, before I started thinking, man, I should fix this.
Yeah, but the real question is, for you, what changed for you then? Because I don't think we
at
said
24, 25?
Yeah.
Well, having that's probably it right there. I just answered it. Hardship. I mean, you literally have to be going through garbage and failing, you know, miserably to go, you know what, this isn't it. So if you have a nice, easy ride when you're 18, that's probably...
You don't know what's to come.
And if you look at that, I don't know why I didn't know the answer to that. I knew the answer the whole time.
I was trying to see if you could get to it, because
if you look at not any, but I would say the vast majority of very successful people, look at how they became successful, what their story is. It's not, it's not the Donald Trump story. You know, it's not my parents were millionaires and I'm a millionaire. It was, I went through some crap and I was tired of it.
But that's what I was going to get at, is the way that you get at an 18-year-old, the way that you get at individuals, is by telling them a compelling story about what happened to you.
I will tell you right now that won't work. It did not work for me. I heard it multiple times from people. You know, oh man, I've been through this. Don't make these mistakes. I'll turn around and do them. You know what I mean? I turn around and do the same things.
But the thing is, and when I say tell a compelling story, I don't just mean, hey, if you don't do X, Y, and Z, you're gonna be in trouble here in the next year. You're gonna lose people. Your leadership's bad. Hey, good luck, man. You're gonna have to make some changes. Like I've heard those things.
I've also heard what you're about to say, but go ahead.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, when somebody comes to me and says, "Yeah, man, or they talk about how they were divorced and they lost everything, and it's they made these mistakes." They tell me a very specific story about things that they've been through. Mm-hmm. It's still, I'm at 18. I'm going, yeah, well, I haven't done any of that. You know what I mean? That's not going to be a problem for me. That's all I think. That's all I thought was. That's cool that it happened to you, but I'm not an idiot, right? I'm still good. I'll be fine. That's all I was thinking. I wasn't thinking, oh man, since that happened to you, I should probably pay attention. Just didn't work for me. Because multiple occasions somebody would say that. Even as I had my business, people would say that.
So it's the same way that I sell in my business, my friend. It's telling a compelling story with their experience. It's my story, but I'm using them and their experience to explain the story in a way they understand it. So I'm not going over their head and just telling them my story and how I see it. Because that's the issue. Is 9 times out of 10 people tell you in their own lens. You need to tell it in a lens that they understand. And that's the trick. Is seeing the world the way they see it, and then explaining the story in a way that resonates with an 18-year-old, not resonates with a 42-year-old trying to tell you how it is.
Yeah, I get you.
That's the trick on how to get to them.
I still don't think it would have worked on me. I still don't think that because, because even if they say that same story, like you're saying, they tweak it and they say, I can't put it into exact words, but I am very stubborn, and I know all of the advice, not all the advice, 90% of the advice.
So, but what I'm going at and what I'm saying is you're telling, and not trying to, but what I perceive is you're saying the only way you can do personal development is when you make the choice, I'm going to do personal development.
That's exactly what I'm trying to say.
And the thing is, you're not going to know to do personal development without someone telling you, you're terrible.
Absolutely.
You need to do that, which is a compelling story to get you into personal development.
Yes, but even when I was told that, I didn't listen, is what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah.
So, that's what I'm saying. It does not work just telling people compelling stories. There's something else has got to move the needle for them. They have to fail themselves. They have to mess up a bunch of times.
But you just also said the whole divorce thing.
Yeah.
To where a person can do all those triumphs and still not do anything.
Yeah.
So that person who moves is what? You have to get them to understand the light in their own way.
I know, Rudy. I understand what you're saying, but I'm saying no matter what, none of that was going to work on me at 18 because I hadn't been through crap myself. So when somebody just tells me, hey, whatever, and the point of the story is you need to work on yourself, right? If just the point of whatever they're trying to convey.
You weren't willing to do or work on yourself.
Because I didn't think that it would ever be an issue for me. I just thought, whatever. I would just write it off. Everything they said would go right over my head. I'm not listening because I don't have an issue right now in my life.
Because no one could convince you.
Yeah, because all I'm looking at is Friday night. I've got enough money to go hang out Friday night. I do not care to look forward and past that, no matter what anybody said to me. That's what I'm trying to get you to understand.
No,
it didn't matter, and I wish I would have listened. That's the thing is it's not for everybody. You know what I mean?
100%. I get that.
But yeah, none of that works for me, or worked on me. So
and my thing to that is, I think we're just going 2 different directions here because I believe that if you have that 18-year-old that is watching, all that 18-year-old needs is to see it in his own light because he's already in the path, he's already in the right step moving forward.
Yeah.
That's the person I'm speaking to.
Absolutely. So what I'm like, the people like me, like that, I wasn't looking at this stuff. I was not ever looking to better myself. I wasn't YouTubing great leaders or anything like that, right? So obviously those people that are searching for things like this are already...
All that 18-year-old needs is to hear the right story in the right light because he's looking.
Absolutely, right.
That's what I'm going at, just to make it very clear.
Yes, but the ones that aren't looking is what I'm talking about.
You can't help someone who's not willing.
You're not willing, but here's what I think needs to happen for those that aren't looking, like I was not looking, is they have to see somebody that's super successful and happy. And they have to see them multiple times. They can't just be man, that's a millionaire. That's cool. I want to do that.
No, they have to see it.
You've got to be in front of those people and then get them to ask the question, how do I do that? And then hit them with the story. And then they're looking. You know what I mean? But I didn't have that. I didn't have those people in front of me that were like super successful that I was like, man, I was in a small town in the middle of nowhere without that exposure, right? So that's what I'm saying. Like, it wasn't going to work on me because I didn't see what could happen if it worked.
So ready for this? You weren't around 5 other individuals.
Yeah. The whole
who wanted to grow.
Yeah. Well, there was, our friends, but again, without having the vision in place, you don't go anywhere. So that's what I think is necessary. If you like can go back, if I were to go back to our school right now, that's all I would talk about is, guys, listen, I had these great things happened. That's it. I wouldn't say all the bad things that happened. I just let them know how great things could be. And then all the time, that's all I would talk about to them until those ones started asking the questions. Well, how did you get there? Say, well, it wasn't easy. This is going to happen to you. This is going to happen. You know what I mean? And get them to make that change. But you have to show them, they've got to see how great it can be first.
You're telling them a story to sell them on the concept of bettering themselves.
Again, it's got to be good stories only, and it's got to be a lot. It can't just be one. One story multiple stories didn't work on me. One story will not do a goddamn thing to anybody.
But the thing is,
for the people who aren't looking.
We're talking about trying to make a change in somebody, vice somebody hearing the one story that's going to do it. Because the thing is, they can listen to you 100 times, but it's going to be that 101st time that they go, that finally. That makes sense.
Right. Again, but the main thing is exposing them
to that.
Yeah, letting them be able to see what it can be like first, because for the people who aren't looking, again, the people who are looking, if I were 18 going back and was smart enough to look, I just spit all over the place, was smart enough to look and research this stuff, I would have been much better off.
But the thing is, we didn't know about it. But that's a whole different thing about the youth not knowing about personal development and how that really propels you past so many other people.
Should be in school.
Yeah, well, that's a whole nother topic we can hit. Well, I don't even know if we want to hit that one.
Well, I mean, that's what we're talking about is getting in front of those individuals earlier, because that's what I would have preferred that
would have been the only way that someone could have got to you at 18, 19 is if they would have been in front of you for 2-3 years showing you this is what could happen if you done this.
Yeah. So like how many individuals in high school, that are getting ready to be in their prime to set up their life, right? How many of those individuals do you think are researching Alex Hormozy or even know who he is? Exactly.
Unless if it's a random thing. But you already know the algorithm is set up to keep people scrolling with useless stuff.
Yeah, and we didn't even have the useful stuff as much. I mean, we had...
Well, no, and it's a lot worse now on the whole distraction and trying to better yourself.
But anyway, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's a very small number of teenagers that are thinking, I need to better myself. And it's fine. Yeah. Again, you should be partying. Like, you should enjoy yourself while you're young like that. I just wish I would have heard about it a little earlier so that I could have implemented some of it and worked on some of it, I still would have had fun, but I would have at least taken an effort earlier on.
And I think, and it's crazy because, I mean, your parents will literally dictate really who you are. But if you have a parent who goes, hey, you need to enjoy yourself in the 20s, and then when you get into your 30s, that's when you really have to sit down and grind. Mm-hmm. That's the complete opposite mindset if you want to think about growing.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's what I like.
Yeah, and that's because we're all taught, go get a job, do it for 30 years, retire. So it's important to break that cycle, and that's what I wanted to have this conversation was how do you expose younger individuals to this to help them figure that out? You know what I mean? And it may not, maybe somebody's 38 and just finding out about this. Mm-hmm. That's fine too. The whole point is to get started. I just was wanting to say, again, no regrets, and all the decisions that I made. However, it would have been cool if I would have known about this earlier.
I agree with you on that one.
Yeah. So I would like to make an effort to help everybody, especially getting out of high school, because just, again, small changes every day compile. And to hit the other point that you said, you try to be faster than everybody else. That's great. Competition, I love it. However, I in the past have made a mistake of wanting things too quickly. Like I want this done immediately, and if it doesn't happen, I lose interest in it.
Delayed
gratification.
Yes,
absolutely important to know.
Yes,
that it takes time, and up until this year, really,
So when I say fast, to me, fast is a year, guys. I'm not talking it's going to happen in a day.
Yeah.
I don't measure my personal development over a week, over a month. I measure it over a year span because there's a lot that changes.
Yeah.
I can't just expect myself to change how I'm operating in a day. Mm-hmm. It's just not realistic. I'm going to be so upset with myself, and I'm going to be then taking away from my potential elsewhere.
Yeah. So perfect example is this podcast, right? In the past, I would have said, man, I want this thing to be making money in 30 days. Okay? 30 days in, we've got 4 listeners. So, no, there's more than that. But still, that's what it feels like. So I try, in the past I would have said, well, this ain't working, shut it down, I'm done, right? But that's not the case. Everything takes time. So there are certain things that you measure and you set goals and blah, blah, blah. And then there are certain things that in my life, personally, some of my habits that I don't track. I just know I want to do better each day.
I'm glad you said that right there. It's not that I write down every little thing.
I do write down a lot of things. Let me get that.
I'm going to be on the opposite side. If you guys don't know, I have dyslexia and I can't spell to save the world. But technology is amazing and it does a lot of it for me. So with that being said, I don't write down anything for the most part. But when I look at the week, I have a check sheet, like a checklist that I go through.
Yeah.
But it's not every single day I'm writing down goals. Because it's not how I have ever hotwired myself to learn.
Yeah.
And it's so much about making all of this fit for you.
Great.
It's not about, like what he said, you can't go, when I said I like to move fast compared to other people, I'm only competing with me. That's it. And to me, what I did for 18 years compared to what I did now in 2 to 3, I'm going fast.
Yep.
And that's what I mean by comparing myself. I'm competing against myself.
Yeah.
So if I look at something and I find something cool on YouTube, I'm like, I want that habit. I think that's a cool system. I'm not going to go, let me implement it the way he did it. He did it the way he did it for him.
Yeah.
I'm going to figure out how that implements and works for me to make it work for myself, and I'm not going to get upset. Yep. I'm going to be able to have leeway with it.
Absolutely.
And I think that's such a big thing is I had to let go of that to be a lot more at ease with what I'm doing every day.
Yeah, that's great. So last time we talked a little bit about all the books that I've read, right? And I'll fix that. I've probably read 3. I listen to them all on audiobooks. So I'm not a... Anyway, I list all these books. They promise, hey, this changed my life. This book changed my life. You hear that all the time, right? On all these self-help books. I read them and listen to them, not with... At first, when I first learned about all this and I dove into reading these books, I thought, yep, this will fix me, right? Now, what I do is I listen or I read to I listen to these books or I read them, and I just take a snippet from each one of them.
I was going to say...
And I build the habits that work for me, because like the Miracle Morning, that's a good one, because that talks about getting up at 5 a.m. and doing these 4 specific things, and that'll fix all your problems. I tried it, and again, I wasn't in the right...
Did you still have problems?
Still had problems. I wasn't in the right headspace. I didn't understand. I thought, all right, I follow this, my problems are fixed, but it wasn't like consciously saying, that I was going to accept the practices and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so I take a bit from each book. And some books I don't even implement. I just read them because there's usually some sort of anecdote or story in there that has some sort of information that helps me look at something with a different viewpoint, right?
Yes.
So there's one called the 5-second rule, which basically says you can trick yourself.
If you drop food, you can pick it up and eat it?
Exactly. Okay. Yeah, you got 5 seconds. If you can trick your mind into doing difficult things if you don't think about it. Which is, there's some truth to that, right?
The Marine Corps taught me that one.
Absolutely. So if basically, so...
I call it going internal.
Yeah, if you're having trouble getting up in the morning, this is the example she uses in the book, but if you're having trouble, your alarm clock goes off at 5 a.m., and you usually would snooze it, stay there until 7, right? So she said one morning her alarm clock went off, and she counted backwards from 5. She said 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and got up. And boom, oh my gosh, I feel like, I can't believe that worked, right? It's like, yeah, no, not so much for me. You know what I mean? Like,
all I could think of is burst out in when you're like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It worked for me. I was like, are you serious?
That's it, right?
It's the fact that all she did was trick herself not to think about what she didn't want to do. That's it.
That's it. And there's science behind it, that backs it up. And again, there's a million books. I've read or listened to probably 40 of these things.
But what I can't get across enough is all these self-help books, all these things. You say you take out one snippet. It's because it's from a different person's viewpoint. Mm-hmm. And you're not going to agree with everyone's viewpoint. But typically you can get the 1 or 2 things that you can go... He said it different from everyone else. That makes sense. That's why you hear those things going, that book helped me change my life, is because that one person's viewpoint matched up with that other person's viewpoint about it, and it finally connected the dots.
Yep.
And the thing is, with reading, it's like you're never done reading. It's because there's so many different people's viewpoints out there. You can always have another person's viewpoint.
Yeah.
But most of the time, it's always saying the same point.
Right.
Is what I'm trying to get at. It's usually all the same points. It's just being said in a different light.
Yeah, and so there's that book, The Habit Loop, that I talked about before, that it tells you how to break bad habits, right? And scientifically, how to break bad habits. Again, that specifically doesn't work for me, but I understand how habits work now. Mm-hmm. So when I see something that I don't, that I'm doing, forming a habit, I can say, oh, I need to fix this, and I fix it in my way, but not so that's what I mean by, I'm constantly reading these books and not going into them thinking, oh, this book's going to change my life. I go in thinking, there's something in here that's worth value, right? I can take something from this book, and you should constantly be looking for that, whether it be videos, there's tons of them. Podcasts.
I'm huge on the YouTube. I think I used to listen to podcasts, but with like coding and stuff, YouTube videos just is the way to go.
Yeah. Yeah. And those are, like tutorial specific ones. But if you're just, listening to somebody else's story, now, again, at 18, I didn't care. I just went, oh, that's a cool story. Now I take little bits from all of this information and build it into my personal routines, my personal habits. And like you said, if you see somebody doing something online, you go, ooh, I like this part of that.
Yeah.
I think I can make that work better for me if I change it this way, right? You have to be thinking that all the time is, how can I make this work better for me? If you find something you like, you can probably tweak it a little bit to make it work better for you. You don't have to do exactly what those people are doing. You don't have to do exactly what we're doing. Again, we're just sharing our stuff so that you can see what we've been through and hear,
So like good example of that, like for all my agents for like my script, I tell them, hey, take the script, copy it, change all the wording to make it sound like you. Mm-hmm. Because you're not going to sound like me, you're not going to sound like me, you're going to do it like you.
Yep.
But you can take the baseline and adjust it to you.
Yeah.
And that is the trick, is finding what you like and tweaking it to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think I'm going to, something I've been working on, because there's all these challenges out here. We just talked about the 75 hard before we started.
Man,
this,
I thought you were about to poke me right in the face. I got close.
Is it?
It looked like it was coming. I don't have glasses on either. I thought you were going for the eye gouge.
Yeah. I would have yelled meow. Anyway, so there's the 75 hard. There's a ton of different challenges out there, right? There are so many days, and what it does is what it's supposed to do is change your habits by doing. And the problem with them is that it's a sharp, immediate 75. Like you start.
And then you feel upset when you don't hit it after day 3, and you're like, okay, I'll reset. But when you get to day 15 and you mess up again, you're like, I don't want to do it again.
Or you make it through 75 and you go, oh, I don't have to do this anymore.
And
there's the problem.
You realize that there's an end, and the thing is, there's no end to personal development. You will always be developing yourself. And the thing is, right when you get stagnant, you're going to start to see issues arise.
That's it.
Because your mind's not focused on the right thing. You're looking for issues because your mind isn't occupied.
Right. So this is a perfect example. I just did the whole 30 challenge, which I talked about this already, the diet, right? Which is, it's just it's annoying, right? I did that for 30 days and I felt amazing. The second I stopped, I went, I'm going to get a pizza, right? Which is fine if you do that. But then this whole month has been garbage. I've been eating nothing but garbage, right? Like I've had a couple. The first week after was like, okay, I'll eat this. I had some good meals and then a bad meal, and then it just slowly tapered down to the end of this month. This whole week has just been trash. And guess what? I've felt like trash. So today I'm starting over, but I'm doing it differently. I'm not going to be as, I'm going to do once a week I'll have a dessert. You know what I mean? That way at the end of this 30 days, I'm not going, oh, all I want to do is eat pizza and cookies. Mm-hmm. So that way it's a sustainable habit. You know what I mean? And that's something that it probably got loud. That's something that I'm developing right now for myself, is a challenge, because I love challenges, right? Like I love the whole cold shower challenge.
But that's the thing, is you're not making it a challenge.
It is and it isn't, right? It's going to be an extend, but it'll be, I don't know, 60 days, 30, 60 days, something like that, to help you build these habits and then give you the guidance moving beyond that to hold those. You know what I mean? So that's something that I've been working on. I've worked out some kinks on it, but I think I'm going to start that probably next month. And maybe I'll, see if anybody else is interested. But anyway, I love challenges. We had that group. I had that group started for a little while that you were in, and there was a couple other of our friends in. And it was, every month we had a new challenge. It was 30 days of cold showers. It was, the next month was 30 days of 100 push-ups every day. We ran 1 mile every day. I love that. I think that's cool in a community because, everybody's got something that they're working towards. And if you mess up, all your buddies are there to tell you you're an idiot. You know what I mean? And you have a reason to better yourself as a group. But it's not, it wasn't like expected that after 30 days you were going to continue to do those things. So some of those are fun, but then, some personal habits should be built upon after these challenges. You know what I mean? That's what I hate about all those challenges is you get them done, and then the second you're done, you go, oh, thank God I don't have to do that anymore. And then you go right back because it was such an immediate change that you go right back to your bad habits. I've done it 100 times. So, but I do like challenges because, again, you're working with people and.
Well, yeah. So I like challenges when it involves other individuals. I don't like challenges when it involves my personal development, because at that point, it's then about the challenge and not about the development. And that's just me and how I work. It just, whenever I make it a challenge for myself, I tend to mess it up.
Yeah. And as soon as you put a timeline on it, really, I guess. So that's why I'm trying to fix that and make it something that isn't timeline specific. And anyway, I don't know what it is yet. I'm working on it. But yes. However, I will say that month that I did the food, I found that I was able to be more disciplined because of it, right? So I that one habit, which was don't eat sugar, basically, and don't eat sugar, dairy, and bread.
It's easier to say no to other things because you already said no to the harder thing.
Right. So because of that challenge, I was more productive that month because I was able to focus better, and that was also probably because of the food, also because I was eating cleaner, but mainly it was because I was using discipline and working on my self-discipline to not eat certain things that I was also found myself, it was easier to get other things accomplished, simply because of the discipline that I was working on. But regardless, that's the whole thing with personal development is it's never ending. You know what I mean? And if you make a mistake, like yesterday, I woke up and I couldn't even open my eyes. 2:40, I couldn't even open my eyes to shut my alarm clock off. So I texted him and said, I'm not going to the gym. And guess what? I felt like shit all day yesterday. And because I was beating myself up for it. I knew I was going to go today because I missed yesterday, but I still was like, I can't believe, you're just being lazy. Just get up, right? So today, guess what? It was twice as hard to get out of bed because I stayed in bed yesterday. So yesterday I thought I was tired, and yesterday I couldn't open my eyes. Today I was like, what the hell? This is worse. And it's simply because I was lazy yesterday. So, but I didn't give up. I didn't stop. That's the whole thing is I made a mistake. I beat myself up all day, but I didn't just say, well, I'm not going to the gym today either. You know what I mean? And then just fall right off the rails. You pick yourself back up and you keep moving. And that's what personal development is. That's the strength behind after you mess up to continue moving. That's what you should really be focusing on. And that's the most important thing is to, whenever you mess up, just keep moving in the right direction. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, try not to dwell on it either because, you can't.
Yeah, because then you beat yourself up all day.
And then you're not actually focused on what you should be focused on.
Which is exactly what happened to me yesterday. So anyway, that's mainly what we wanted to touch on today was because this is the 10th episode. We made it to 10 episodes. I'm pretty excited about that. So we wanted to, from now on, I think we're going to be doing things a little bit differently. Instead of trying to pick a specific topic, we're just going to have conversations.
Yeah.
And we'll lead into things when we feel like it. But
yeah, wherever that conversation leads, it leads. I think we both,
these 10 episodes were to get comfortable out here.
Yeah.
And maybe teach a couple things. But it was, really just to get in the habit, build the habit of doing this podcast and get comfortable with the podcast.
Yeah, and actually knowing that we can talk about subjects to where, obviously, the whole thing that sparked the podcast was we have these type of conversations regardless.
Every day.
So it's one of those things to where if we can bring value, we're going to try to bring value. So it's...
Yeah. And again, to the ones of you that are listening, the four of you that message me, we're going to keep going. We're not... Like I said, in the past, I would have gotten to 10, saw that only 30 people had played our episodes, and I would have said, nah, that's enough. But to those of you that see all my reels, like I get, maybe 1,000 views on a reel and only 30 listeners on the podcast, right? So to those, what was that, 970 other people, get ready. I'm about to be all over your face. That sounded gay. I'm about to be all over your feed, because we're not stopping. I'm having too much fun with it. So
It sounds it.
yeah, well, it's only gonna get worse. The podcast will get better, but the amount of content is gonna be overwhelming to those of you that don't like this. So unfollow.
Okay, well, we'll leave it there.
Yeah, we'll
you got anything else for?
No, thank you to everybody, to those 30 people that have listened to every episode, and that are following along and sharing this with people. I appreciate you guys. We're gonna keep going. I'm not done. So that's it, though. I don't have anything else other than to say thank you to those
See you on the 11th.
Yeah, we'll see you next time.